my very first episode for Bushra Shaikh in view, it makes sense for me to talk about something that is concerning everybody, something that is going on around the world, Israel and Palestine. I would feel like I'd be doing myself a disservice and a disservice to everybody else if I didn't talk about this. Today, I'm joined by Fahima Mohamed. She's somebody that I have worked with, and she herself has done lots of broadcasting and presenting on television. She's also a life coach, so she's used to speaking to people and finding out lots of things about them, who they are, what makes them tick, and how they feel. So before we crack on, I'm going to say hi to Fahima. Hi Fahima, how are you?
Hi, thanks for having me. It's great being here and being part of this. I really appreciate the invite.
Very, very welcome, Fahima. As you know, this is the introductory episode of a brand new channel. And as I said before, it's so important for us to introduce all of this, firstly, by talking about what's been going on with Israel and Palestine. And I guess what I want to say is this is such a central point for so many people. It doesn't really matter what faith you come from, what religion, what culture, what background. This entire situation and what's going on is affecting everybody. Can you tell me a little bit about, how you've been feeling and what's been going on with you for the last few weeks when it comes to what's been going on?
There is no words, to be fair. And I personally have been reporting and researching on this particular situation on various platforms, and it really, it has affected me even more than I thought it would. Just doing the research, I know a lot of the times when we look at the news, we can probably switch it off, but being part of your work and really digging deep into, the actual situation, and speaking to so many colleagues who are actually reporters, journalists, and working in media as well, it has affected their mental well-being. Yeah. Because it's so hard to just ignore this. And I'm really surprised how many people that are in power or can make decisions ignore this.
Yeah.
That is the main thing. Because like I said, it's so effective and impactful that if you are human, like you said, no background or faith needed, there's no reason and there's no other answer than what we are crying for every day.
Absolutely. And what I've seen over the last few weeks is this is very difficult to unpack because there is so much going on. This isn't an isolated incident that doesn't include various different things. On one hand, we've got people discussing it like it's a fight about religion. There is another side where people are discussing it like there's no historical context. We've got another group of people who are using it for their own political gain. And those are only three things, off the top of my head that I can think about. But one question that seems to have been introduced as the opening sentence is, do you condemn Hamas? And I want to ask you, what do you say to that? And have you been asked that question?
Well, no, I haven't been invited to these kind of platforms, since this actual atrocity happened. And I haven't been asked that question. But being human and obviously knowing that all lives matter and we don't believe in the sense of anyone losing their life and celebrating it, and no one's done that.
Absolutely.
So that's really needs to be made clear, and for us to be asked that question again and again and again, even when political leaders and diplomats have gone on saying that they've lost their families and it's been disregarded, and the next question is, do you condemn Hamas as the next question? It's very insensitive, and I just find it really, really shocking that the treatment of people that are speaking about these atrocities are actually being treated the way they are.
It's interesting that you say that, because when you speak about condemning Hamas, I said on my X account, I said that it feels as though every Muslim is framed as though Hamas is their brother or their cousin. And the reason why I say that is because have you felt a shift as a broadcaster and a commentator in your appearances and when you are called to speak about this? Is there a shift? Do you feel like you've been silenced? Because I certainly do feel like my particular opinion that I have about the situation has not been asked.
Yes.
Yet prior to this, I was called on numerous occasions. And what that tells me is our broadcasters nitpicking who they choose and select to talk about this.
I think you said it exactly the way I feel right now, and it's the exact same experience, you know. And the thing is, I don't really talk about political issues as much. I talk more about social issues. But obviously, when things do arise, I am actually able to talk about things like this. And it is really surprising that it is dead silence when it comes to the mainstream media and having that diversity. And our voices are just as important, if not more, at this moment in time.
Yeah.
And the fact that we are there giving our opinions generally when they want on different topics, but this particular one, they don't seem to want a fair debate. They don't seem to want that sort of impartiality and that sort of evenness in a discussion, because that's what we're going to bring.
So you saying that right now it feels like in the broadcasting climate, in the political climate even, there is a wrong side and a right side that is being framed that way. And if you fall in the wrong side, it means that we don't want to hear from you. And that's quite worrying and that's quite concerning, because when it comes to any situation, it's very important to have dissenting voices, because what that does is it allows people to have the information and make the decision that they want with the information provided.
Exactly.
So, you know, this is incredibly frightening, especially for me. And this is, I guess, why we are here today. We're having to do independent podcasts, bringing our guests on, like yourself today, and having these conversations in a totally different way. And there was a point for me that I genuinely felt like we were making progress. And when I mean progress, I mean as a Muslim community, as a Muslim individual like myself and like yourself, we have been at the receiving end of Islamophobia and hatred since decades in general. And we have been branded like these barbaric, evil individuals who are always the enemy. And I almost feel like that's happening again.
Well, there has been statistics increase even prior to this with Islamophobia. And now, obviously, it's just publicly open and allowed, even on certain platforms, with people that you would not expect to speak in that way and not have anyone counter them or challenge them fairly. And it's really surprising. And yes, we love diversity. We love to have conversations. And our voices are so limited anyway. And this particular scenario, like I said, and this situation and what's happening in the world, we are the ones that have these kind of feelings that needs to be out there, regardless if you agree or not. Totally. There should be intellectual, critical analysis, and individuals who can speak and have opportunities be allowed those spaces. And if people don't like it, then we are living in houses where we have neighbors with diversity. We've got schools and workspaces that are diverse. How are we going to face that equally and fairly and justly if it's not shown even on platforms that, we can actually talk about these things and give real opinions, which is diverse?
Go on, Fahima, give me some names. Give me some names. Who is it that you are seeing in the public climate who is incredibly vocal but has been the most incredibly, grotesquely divisive?
I don't really name and shame people, because I think if the shoe fits, you wear it.
Suella Braverman.
Okay, yeah, if you're talking politics, fair enough. You've got that. I thought you meant someone in particular, which I very rarely do.
I'm talking about people who have incredible influence that are sitting in our cabinet in office.
Keir Starmer.
Exactly, that make the decisions that involve the entire community, not just Muslims, every single one of us, and yet nothing happens. There is no consequence. So yes, Suella Braverman. She's one person. Give me another.
There's Rishi Sunak, of course. We've even had the King's speech recently, which was quite
telling.
very, very telling. So-called, I don't know, figure of all faiths and things like that, when it suits, the rhetoric and the narrative when it needs to be.
Yeah.
And a time like this when it's actually needed. And doesn't matter if you don't like us. We are here. We've been here. We contribute to the economy, to society, to work. There is so much that we do that if you were to actually take us out, to be honest, you'd feel it within seconds. And people don't realize that. We contribute in so many ways, professionally, academically, in so many areas that if, when I hear and see some of the comments, it just really surprises me. I'm like, are you living in a box? Do you not go outside and see how, the UK operates and why it operates the way it operates?
Yeah.
Do they not understand that?
And it's frightening because it's okay. I mean, for us to say that the situation in Palestine has been going on for decades. We know it's a 75-year conflict, right? Both sides have a story to tell. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to sit here and have people say to me, Bushra, you've been biased on this discussion. But those are the facts.
Yeah.
When we look at statistics and we look at the number of people, and I mean people, that's also Israelis and Palestinians, that have died over 75 years. Facts tell us that more Palestinians have died. We know that there is occupation. We know that they are treated less than as subhumans. These are factual placements made by the UN and Amnesty International. So if you've got this happening to 2.5 plus million individuals, for example, then why wouldn't that slightly seep into the culture of Great Britain? Is there a connection? Is there a connection somewhere, which is it's okay to speak about Muslim people in the way that we are seeing?
It's never okay, but it's okay if you look at them as second-class, citizens, or someone that you don't respect in the same manner as another person with a different skin color, background, and faith. And I'm just going to say it as it is, because you're never really given this opportunity to really say it as it is. At the end of the day, and the fact that so many things have been propagated in the mainstream media, for example, these marches being hate marches, and it's the kind of people that attend it, like we're all jihadists and we're all pro-terrorists and Hamas and things like that, when you clearly can see there are all backgrounds, all faiths, and no faith that is going to attend because they just cannot stand this anymore. I know these things have been going on for a long time, but this is different. People are speaking out where they've never spoken out before. It's different this time.
Yeah.
That even if the people are trying to, on the top, put in the policies and put in the pressure, for example, as the Met Police should do certain things, which they do anyway, and they are very strong in that way. But it's like as if, because it's, this particular group of people and individual, then that pressure's 10 times worse.
Yeah.
And we are not questioning that. We are not looking at that when it comes to the broader perspective on platforms to debunk these kind of stigma and misrepresentations.
Yeah, I think there is certainly a lot of work that needs to be done when it comes to having the right discussions in the right places. We talk about freedom of speech, which is interesting. And gosh, we can have podcasts.
With responsibility, apparently.
Yeah, yes.
But only when it's certain people are saying it. I mean, how is that even freedom of speech when people are actually coming to speak on a platform and then in the end they are disrespected by certain people because they have a certain view? Yeah. They're not even allowed to finish that sentence.
Because it becomes freedom of speech for you and hate speech for me.
Oh, yeah.
You see, that's actually what's going on. And, we need to be really transparent about these conversations and have them because it's important. Unless we don't have these discussions, we're never really going to find what the solution is, right? So, just coming back to the idea of free speech and saying what we like. Look, at the end of the day, when we say something, there is always going to be some type of consequence.
Absolutely.
And ideally, as human beings, the last thing we ever want to do is purposefully upset anyone. But we're humans and we're never going to agree with everybody 100%. But just going back to this entire discussion and this conversation, there has been an extraordinary pushback about ceasefire. Mm-hmm. Tell me what you've been seeing. For me, I have never seen it like this before. And the fact that we have millions of people who simply want to save human beings even that is being countered. Tell me what you've been seeing on that.
Well, everyday people, of course, are countering it. We've got even the UN calling for it. We've got so many people, officials that are calling for it. It's being ignored because certain part of the world is obviously like a child, as we've heard, that throws out their rattle. They do whatever crimes and naughtiness.
Toys.
Yeah, toys.
Throwing their toys out the
literally.
pram, standard.
And at the end of the day, they know that being on top, for example, we've heard certain commentators and analysts, talk deliberately on Netanyahu speaking and showing videos to say, I can do what I want. They're not going to say anything to me.
Yeah.
They might give me a slap on the wrist. They might actually call me out even. But at the end of the day, nothing really is going to be taken into action. And even we had the Palestinian Congresswoman, Rashida, recently spoke on that in America, saying these things, that when are we going to call? We've got the Irish government and institute, and we've got Barrett, his name, where he's speaking as well constantly. Yeah. We've got members around in Scotland. We've got all over the world. Even certain people have pulled out. And we're not saying we want to punish anyone, but just to show a stance, to make a difference, to say, you know what, let's just stop. Let's make a different decision right now, because these people are important just as much as you give place for other people. That is important, but the numbers are more than quadruple now, but it seems to still not make a difference. We've had a press conference for children in Gaza who are outside the Shifa hospital who actually spoke in English, that they're like, you can't ignore us.
Oh, that broke my heart when I saw that footage. It absolutely did. And I do often think to myself, right, Fahima, is what's the magic number? Is there a magic number? Is this something that, has Benjamin Netanyahu got an ulterior motive? These are important questions to ask, because I personally feel like he has, and he always has. I even know several friends of mine, Jewish friends of mine, who absolutely did not want to vote him in.
Well, at this moment, we have people, they're not making it on mainstream, but there are reports to say that people are against the government right now in Israel, and they are not actually happy with the systems, because at the end of the day, there was problems even before this, where there were protests on the streets against them. And even now, because they don't want to be, in my name, it was even, proudly and widely and loudly open in the United States in Grand National Station, where people were actually chanting, the Jewish community, saying not in my name. But these are not obviously going to be spoken about, in our mainstream or our broadcasters. And, they're just going to put us all under, like as if, they're going to say that and we're all going to listen. That's what I love now, social media and the digital platform, because you know what? Even if you say what you're saying, we're going to have somewhere else to actually counter it, like even this space that we have right now.
Oh, totally. Because, we are seeing this conversation happening, which is about Islamophobia, Jew hating. And what's bizarre is how are people trying to make it a hierarchy of hate?
Yeah.
Is someone hated more than somebody else? Surely this is about questioning, why are groups of people hated to begin with? This isn't who can win the competition and the prize of who is hated the most. I have constructively criticized the Israeli state, right? They are a government. They are elected. That does not mean I am anti-Jew.
Exactly. Yes.
So, for me, this whole situation is so bizarre. And Fahima, I would love to speak to you for longer, and I know you are going to be joining me on episode 2, hopefully, which is going to be exciting. But I'll let you have maybe the final thoughts.
I just want everyone to, from the top to the bottom of the hierarchy, to really look within your hearts and continue to speak, and regardless of censorship or the repercussions of you speaking out. It is the numbers that's going to make a difference, and they may be able to censor one. They can't censor thousands and hundreds of thousands. And the more we speak, the more our voices will make a difference.
I think that is the absolutely perfect way to end this. And you're so right. You see, one person thinks that they can't make a difference, but when one person leads the way, other people follow. So one voice becomes 5 becomes 10, and we carry on. And God willing, and I will say that because I'm a person of faith, God willing, let our voices be heard. And this is so important because it's not just for us, it is for every innocent civilian at any given moment in the history who has lost their lives to something like this.